Spend the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello, wackos. Welcome to the first episode of Without a Country of 2025. I am recording this in 2024 because we're doing a pre-record because this is the New Year's Day episode, so just keep that in mind. But it's 8 p.m. on Monday, December 30th when I'm recording it. So we are not too far off from the new year. I hope you guys had a safe and happy New Year's Eve and a wonderful holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Also, if anyone celebrates Kwanzaa, no joke, can you please email me withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com? I don't think I think in grammar school I knew people, but in my adult life, I don't know that I know. I just feel like a lot. I don't know that do you know anyone who celebrates Kwanzaa, Mike?
I think I'm trying to remember. I think there was one comic I worked with when I was booking Brooklyn that celebrated Kwanzaa.
I would like to feature. I know people who do like Kwanzaa, Carrie Coddett does the Kwanzaa crawl. She organized that, but I don't like anyone who actually celebrates it. I would like to learn more about it. I mean, I can read about it online, but that's not really the same as someone explaining it to you. I'll explain Hanukkah to you guys, and then you can explain Kwanzaa to me. It'll be fun. Anyway, well, whatever you celebrate, I hope you had a great one. Let's get right into it. I don't really have any updates or fascinating stories because I was just hanging out with my family in good old Union, New Jersey. I got a pedicure in Union, New Jersey. We went for a Fisher family pedicure. My mom, my brother, and I. That was huge, you guys. My mom and my brother's first professional pedicure ever. And we got it in our hometown. And then we went to this Filipino coffee shop that has been all the rage and getting all these accolades. And it's one of the top coffee shops in New Jersey. And I had wanted to go there because they have an ube latte, and I'm obsessed with ube. And I had it, and it was great. So shout out to Ayala Coffee in Union, New Jersey. I think Joe Coy went there, so unfortunately I am definitely not the most famous comedian to have gone to Ayala Coffee in Union, New Jersey, so I just didn't even mention that I went. I just went and got a coffee like a normal person and shut my mouth, which I think more people should do in 2025. All right. Now, let's get right into it. My enemy of the state this week, and for a long time, this guy pissed me the fuck off, is Justin Baldoni.
Enemy of the state.
If you guys are following me on social media, you did see that I wished everyone a Merry Christmas except for Justin Baldoni. Now, again, this is very similar, well, in many ways, to the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case. Please do not turn your ears off because I'm saying this. I know people were kind of getting angry when people were comparing this to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. And I think this is for several reasons. Number one, Amber Heard really falls under the umbrella of, not the perfect victim. So there's many things. And that's a large conversation, especially if you listen to Guys We Fucked, about what it means, especially for women. And people of color to be the perfect victim, the ideal victim. And Amber Heard is not the perfect victim, even though she's white and blonde and, and pretty and all these things. Whereas I think Blake Lively has a little bit more of a squeaky clean reputation. She's more famous. She is a part of more things that we hold near and dear to our hearts. Gossip Girl, especially for millennials. So I think it's easier for her to be the perfect victim. And, when Amber Heard was speaking on a lot of similarities that she saw in the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively case to her own situation, people were like, oh, of course, Amber Heard needs to get in her two cents in. And it's Amber Heard might be a little more eccentric than Blake Lively is. I quite honestly find Blake Lively to be fucking blow my brains out boring. But I like her. I loved her in Gossip Girl, But yeah, she has that leading woman blandness, You know, I'm never interested in the lead character. I'm always interested in like the friend character. To me, her friend Blair was much more interesting than Serena on Gossip Girl, but Serena was the lead. And to me, Blair is that in life as well. Again, I mean, I'm a Swiftie. Yeah, I'm a huge Swiftie. I love Taylor Swift's music. Taylor Swift, the person, I don't find to be quite that interesting, And I think that's, speaks to why Blake and Taylor are best friends. So it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, again, similar to the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, I wasn't really following this Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively thing. I was like, whatever. I'm just not concerned because it seemed just like fighting on set. I don't know what they're doing, whatever. And then when pieces of information really started to go to top, like quite honestly, before this thing, I didn't even know who Justin Baldoni was, right? But the thing is, I thought I didn't know who he was, and then I realized I knew exactly what he was. And before all this stuff surfaced, I already hated this guy because he is one of the hosts on the Man Enough podcast, which, okay. The woman host Liz on the Man Enough podcast. No, she quit, but God bless her. I think she's been on Guys We Fucked. She is extremely intelligent. I love the work that she's done. I think she has signed up for an uphill battle in Liz Plank in really being this feminist who celebrates men and tries to get to connect with their emotions more. Like, God bless her. I see her, I hear her, but I would always look at clips of the Man Enough podcast and I'd be like, this poor woman is getting got. Okay, and she's smart. She's a smart, one of my favorite guests on Guys We Fucked. Did she unfollow me on Instagram? Yeah, and who knows why? When people unfollow me on Instagram, I go, I'm not even mad about that. I know how I can be, but I just wish that to unfollow someone, you had to write the reason why, like when you're leaving like a subscription email list, because I'm so curious. I'm like, what was the thing I posted? Because there are so many. But please give me an exit survey for what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you to unfollow me? I am like so curious. Because again, it could be so many things. A lot of people unfollowed me when I posted something about anti-Semitism, a clip from this show, because they of course did not care. They just saw what they wanted to see, and they saw she's talking about anti-Semitism. She must be pro-Israel. That's not the case at all. But you write the story about people that you want to write and that you want to believe. And I understand that the situation, the genocide in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza is something that people are so angry about that they need to place that anger somewhere. And if you seeing a clip in, scrolling of me talking about the rise of anti-Semitism in New York City, that made you want to unfollow me because it was a place to place your anger, I'm going to give that to you, right? I understand. It's so much like secondhand trauma to take in that it seems like it will make us all implode. And so if unfollowing me, even though that is not how I actually feel, gave you some relief, good for you. Because I know some people I really like unfollow me, and I know exactly why they unfollowed me, and it was because of that anti-Semitism clip. And that's unfortunate because I thought those people were more critical thinkers than that. I don't know if that's why Liz unfollowed me, but it just, listen, I'm very annoying. It could have been Amber Heard. There's so many things, but it just made me laugh. But I keep following her because I really like her content. And so... But this Man Enough podcast, it just makes me laugh every single fucking time because, yeah, Justin Baldoni, you can just tell from these clips. I have no problem with the other guy on the show, but Justin Baldoni, his face would come up and I'd be like, who is this slimy, greasy, full of shit, pretend emotional guy? I mean... Every clip I saw of him, I was like, this guy cheats. This guy lies. This guy does not care about women in any way. And I got that just from the clips from the man from the pregnant pauses he would take when he was listening to, fucking Twigs or whatever we're calling, talk about healing, like whatever the fuck it was. I was like, this guy's haircut, this guy's ponytail is full of shit. Obviously, this guy is lying to you. And it was a shame because I know Liz was holding space for people that most feminists refuse to hold space for. Men who want to get more in touch with their emotions. But this podcast to me reeked of the men who, during the first rise of this wave of feminism, or the first section of this wave of feminism, they were like, who, in this time period would like wear feminist bracelets. And I used to have a joke about this. I'm like, those are the people, these self-proclaimed feminist bracelet wearing men who wear shirts that say feminist and put feminist in their bio on Instagram. Those are the ones that you can't trust most of all, because those are the misogynists who are hiding in plain sight, who are going to use their misogyny once they have gained your trust through bullshit, through, giving themselves titles that they did not earn, like feminist, and from being this kind of greasy, weird, metrosexual good looking that a certain type of woman really falls head over heels for, right? Like, I can recognize looking at Justin Baldoni's face that he is what should be a good looking person, but he makes my skin crawl, and I've always felt that way. And when I placed, and this was only in the past like fucking week or two that I realized this guy I had been hating silently the whole time. This guy who I had been like, wow, I've never seen a podcast clip of someone being more full of shit constantly than this fucking guy. That was Justin Baldoni the whole time. So this whole time I'm thinking I was living a Justin Baldoni free life. I was not. I was intaking a ton of Justin Baldoni content, and I hated this guy the whole time without even knowing his name. I just thought he was some yuck podcast host who signed up because he needed attention. And he did, and those things were true, but he's actually quite a famous actor. Not famous enough, apparently. He had to attempt to take down Blake Lively for me to even learn who he was. The power of Blake Lively, all right? But man, did I have a good laugh. Yeah, I didn't put two and two together until I scrolled past Liz's post about being like, I have told my team that I am stepping down from the Man Enough podcast. And then I'm going, what? Why is she stepping down from the Man Enough podcast? And I go, oh, because her co-host on the whole podcast, that the premise is men trying to do better. Bullshit. I mean, listen, I believe that men can do better. And I believe that, if men go to therapy, that they can break through these emotional boundaries that they have. I can tell you the number one way men are not improving, though, and that's by being the host of a podcast. Okay, you guys know I love a meme about taking away podcast microphones from men. I love a meme about that. I'll share a reel about that all day, every day in my Instagram stories. And so when I put two and two together and realized that Liz Plank was stepping down from the Man Enough podcast, and I really do feel for her because I know she really, really, really has devoted a good portion of her life to this work, and I know she means it, and I really do believe that she is trying to see the best in men. And again, God bless her, because it's not work I'm willing to do. Someone needed to do it, and it was not me. I would say men needed to do it, but God bless her for doing it. But yeah, Justin Baldoni, oh my God, what a nasty scumbag. But what made me feel good was that my bullshit sensors were still sharp. I felt so good about that. So yeah, let's get, oh God, I hate this guy. It's hard to even talk about him. I hate him so much. And it's also interesting to see this go down because in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp, there was so much disparity in the level of fame, right? Amber Heard, we know who she is. Can you really name one thing she was in? No, the one thing you can name that she was in was the Depp versus Heard trial at this point. And then whereas Johnny Depp is literally one of the most famous actors of our lifetime. one of the most famous actors. It's like Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise. This is who it is. And so it's stunning. Whereas Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, even though I apparently didn't know who Justin Baldoni was, even though I did, Blake Lively here takes the cake with level of fame. Blake Lively is more famous than Justin Baldoni. And that's what makes it even more crazier that still at Blake Lively's level of fame and her relevancy, she's married to a famous man. She's best friends with the most famous pop star in the world right now. This is a very high level of fame. Still at that level of fame, with her pretty much squeaky clean reputation, Hollywood was still able to take her down because that's how amped we are to hate on a woman. We are salivating. We're just fucking. We're biting at the what is that the saying? Biting at the chomp? Is that the horse the saying? Chomping at the bit. I was like, I'm having a kind of a dyslexic moment here. Chomping at the bit. Okay, this is, and we are so eager. We are chomping at the bit to hate women. And I would say, especially women with a squeaky clean reputation who are blonde and beautiful and married to a famous, attractive actor. Again, Ryan Reynolds does not do it for me, but whatever. To each their own. And I saw so many people that I really love and respect, let's not get crazy here, like and respect on social media, including like Betty who's if you're not familiar with her, she like performed on the Kesha cruise, kind of like a queer icon, feminist, even Betty Who was tricked by this smear campaign by so to me, I'm looking at this like, if even Betty Who is just a really progressive, critical thinking artist, smart woman, if even she was tricked by this, what hope do the rest of us have? And why are we so obsessed? Why are we so eager to hate on women, to watch the fall of a fellow sister? Why does that bring us so much joy, and how can we heal that wound? My life's work, guys. You know this is my life's work. I will continue working on this in 2025. I will be reading all the feminist works that I can. But yeah, there was an op-ed by the co-founder of Gawker, which, if you're not familiar with Gawker, was very big. I don't know, like when, if you're like a millennial, like when you were in high school, kind of like an OG, like TMZ or Perez Hilton. And so the co-founder of that website did an op-ed guest essay for the New York Times that was published on December 26th, saying, "I've seen celebrity PR tactics at work. Blake Lively is not alone." And so I wanted to share this with you because I really think this writer has a level of expertise. And I love to share that because, again, like I always said, it's basically reading an op-ed on the show is kind of like having a guest on without actually having to get the guest. And additionally, I do recommend you go over to Kate Beckinsale's Instagram. Number one, she's kind of a fun follow anyway, because she is just living the life that she wants to live. And I really love that for her. But additionally, she did kind of just a straight to camera rant in support of Blake Lively and shared some stories from her own experience on film sets that were really not shocking to me, but still disgusting. Like I commented it, like I am never surprised by women's stories in this business, but I am constantly disgusted. And again, I just think it's really interesting to hear from women who have reached a certain level of fame. Kate Beckinsale's is quite high. And the things that they have still endured on film sets. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to start believing women when they say these things are happening to them. And I think as much good, and Kate talks about this a little bit in her rant, but I think as much good as things like the Me Too movement have done, they also have given us an illusion that a lot more improvements have been made in women's lives than actually have been, because we're America. We like to create something buzzy. We like to create a sweatshirt and a hashtag and do a big fundraiser and go, well, that's solved. Now we can move on to the next thing. And it is not solved at all. And It needs to be fixed. Even just like looking at, I guess New York Times did the top comedy specials of the year or whatever. And I'm looking at them and they were all fucking dudes. They were all fucking straight dudes. I'm like, this is not, first of all, there's a couple on there that were not good comedy specials. I'm not going to list who, but there was just a couple on there that I'm like, oh, this is top 5, really? Not a fucking chance. Get the fuck out of here. But the fact that the amount of women that are, it was my favorite of hers, but Ali Wong's wasn't listed. Ali Wong's was better than several of the ones on there. I'll tell you that for damn sure. But anyway, I digress. All right, so this op-ed, it's by Elizabeth Spires, who again, she talks about her hand in Gawker, but here we go. The actress Blake Lively is not someone I had a real opinion about before a few days ago. And I think that's a really apt description of Blake Lively. Who cares? When the news broke that she had filed a legal complaint against Justin Baldoni, her It Ends With Us director and co-star for sexual harassment and retaliation. But I saw a video a while back in which she appeared to be hostile to a reporter making a seemingly innocuous reference to her pregnancy. My impression was that she seemed a little rude and needlessly antagonistic. Oh, we love to call a woman rude. We love it. I saw the video thanks to a Daily Mail article suggesting that she was facing a backlash, one that, unbeknown to me, was allegedly the product of a smear campaign by a public relations firm hired by Mr. Baldoni to damage Ms. Lively's reputation in order to preempt her accusations about his wildly inappropriate behavior on set. Much of what we know about celebrities' lives is shaped by PR professionals who are paid handsomely to create and spread stories that are flattering to their clients and unflattering to their perceived enemies. Reputation management is big business. The time and resources spent in Hollywood and New York to buff, polish, and protect a star's image can be greater than what's spent to protect the reputations of some chief executives or senators. And just to give you like an idea of like when they're talking about like big business, a passably good publicist will cost you $7,000 a month. Passably good. It's a ruthless business, too. Dishonesty is often tolerated on the dubious basis that entertainment is a frivolity and the stakes are low and things like talent and truth can be tarnished with the art of the smear. I saw the brute force of celebrity PR tactics up close early in my career after I co-founded the website Gawker in 2002, which mostly covered well-known New Yorkers in the spirit of Spy magazine, which had christened Donald Trump a short-fingered vulgarian, and freelanced for the New York Post's Page 6 gossip column. In the first few months of Gawker, in spite of having just around 10,000 readers a day, we got a cease and desist letter from Marty Singer, a well-known entertainment lawyer who insisted that we take down an unflattering story about one of his clients. The threat never went anywhere because we had not published the story, but had merely linked to it. These were the early days of the internet, and many people didn't understand how hyperlinks worked. It's unclear to me, even now, whether his firm understood this perfectly well, but sent the cease and desist letter to try and intimidate us anyway. At Page 6, the PR apparatus of blocking and tackling was even more apparent because the gossip industry is so intertwined with celebrities. PR people wouldn't just defend their clients. They would try to plant flattering stories, derail unflattering ones, or pit celebrities against each other to redirect attention. Most of the plants were fairly innocuous, a sighting of a celebrity at an upscale restaurant or a note about what a celebrity was wearing. Others were more strategic, and publicists would sometimes try to negotiate more flattering coverage of one client by offering a scoop about another or a tip about a client's rival. Can't trust anyone in this business. Sometimes publicists would use access to celebrities as leverage. On one occasion, a powerful New York publicist was so angry that the head of the column wouldn't kill a story about a friend and former love interest that she threatened to ban its staff members from all of her high-profile events. In retaliation, the columnist she threatened published a salacious blind item about her and called her parties horrific. No one is more sensitive about celebrity image making and reputation management than the celebrities themselves. I was once on a panel with the actor Alec Baldwin at the Hamptons International Film Festival for a documentary that was partly about Gawker, and he more or less lit into me on stage because he was resentful about an item that the site published years after I left, reporting that he had called his then 11-year-old daughter Ireland a pig in an angry voicemail. That's a core memory for me as a millennial. He suggested that entertainment journalists were leeches determined to invade his privacy and that he tried to stay out of the spotlight. And it's fun, because this woman's perspective is like leeches, like we're making you more famous, right? Because I think a lot of people kind of have a very black and white view of gossip columns, right? And you're like, yeah, if just as an outsider looking in, you're like, oh yeah, this is like, what a empty life. But it's like, no, this is all part of the machine. People, the paparazzi just doesn't just show up unless you're super, super famous. Sometimes it just shows up. But you're usually calling it on yourself because it helps you to elevate you. And it's a tool that many celebrities use to make themselves more famous, right? I laugh because, in my view, this was obviously not true. Mr. Baldwin and other stars appeared regularly in Page Six, often because celebrity publicists called to plant flattering stories about them. His wife, Hilaria Baldwin, a former lifestyle correspondent for Extra, a show about Hollywood celebrities, acknowledged to me at a dinner after a panel that this happened, but suggested that their PR people did it without their knowledge. Now that so much reputation management happens on social media platforms and elsewhere on the internet, the sources of information and ultimately the truth and the manufactured lies about a celebrity are harder to sort through, as is all information, including political news. This was something Mr. Baldoni's PR firm is accused of exploiting on his behalf via coordinated posts on various platforms. They allegedly used a technique called astroturfing, in which they used social media accounts to create the impression that Ms. Lively was difficult to work with and betraying feminism in some way while playing up Mr. Baldoni's credentials as a self-proclaimed feminist. I cannot tell you enough. And this is not me trying to say that men in their hearts shouldn't feel like they're a feminist. You better, and that's a threat. But if you go around saying, I'm a feminist, I'm a big feminist, red flag. I've been saying that for years too, long before this case. Who cared about preventing domestic violence, which just adds another layer of disgustingness to this. And his PR firm was largely successful until Ms. Lively's legal complaint laid out the alleged smear campaign. And good for her. Her business suffered, and so did her reputation. Mr. Baldoni's attorney said in a statement to the Times that the accusations of a smear campaign were categorically false. Of course, you have to say that. Why are these techniques sometimes so damaging? Celebrities, actors in particular, traffic in narrative. People want to know about them because they see them play out human dramas on screen and feel that they can relate to them. Viewers develop what social psychologists call parasocial relationships, which are so complex and freak me out so much and need to be studied for decades and decades and decades. One-way relationships in which people identify with and feel they understand another person who, to put it bluntly, doesn't know they exist. They think they know something about who a celebrity is because they relate to characters the celebrity has played, and they're genuinely curious about the lives of actors beyond their on-screen roles. Celebrities deal with this by hiring PR people to manage their reputations or simply keeping a low profile. For stars like Ms. Lively and her husband, the actor Ryan Reynolds, keeping tabs on their public image is a necessity because the way people perceive them directly affects the success of their work. They are not just people who have a job in entertainment. They are brands. The machinery to protect or upend those brands is often as or more extensive than it is for large, high-profile companies, in part because people relate to stars very personally in a way that they don't relate to institutions or products. My 9-year-old son plays a video game called Fortnite. and was delighted to discover Mr. Reynolds popping out of an ATM in the game because he thinks Mr. Reynolds is hilarious and likable. I agree, but I don't know him personally, and this could be the work of very good PR people and a generally positive parasocial relationship. These parasocial relationships are crucial to the business of Hollywood, where a popular actor can make or break a big budget movie. In this sense, Ms. Lively had another thing working against her, the particular line women have to walk in the public eye. And this is something you've been hearing me talk about for years on this show and on Guys We Fucked. They must be likable in a way that men don't have to be. And not only do we see this in Hollywood, we see this time and time again in politics. We saw it with Hillary Clinton. We saw it with Kamala Harris. I think Sarah Palin is a great example of someone was really, not doing that great of a job politically, but is beautiful and likable. I fucking was watching Game Show Network over the holidays because my family loves to watch Game Show Network. And she was appearing, obviously these are reruns because it's Game Show. She was appearing on Match Game, hosted by Alec Baldwin, and then Sarah Palin is one of the celebrity contestants. And I go, what is going on here? What kind of bizarre world alternative universe am I living in? It probably says something positive about her that the worst thing Mr. Baldoni's PR firm could produce in terms of smearing her were clips and social media posts that suggested she was unlikable and nitpicked about her posture and tone, which is easy to do with any high-profile woman, especially one who's been interviewed hundreds of times. Everyone has an off day or a clip that can be unflattering out of context. If you have an impression of Ms. Lively and it's generally negative, it may be because, like me, you saw one of those clips and the sprawling campaign that put those clips in front of you was invisible to you. The allegations Ms. Lively makes in her complaint are chilling. Among other things, she says that Mr. Baldoni kept insisting that she perform sex scenes that were not part of the script, touched and kissed her without consent, suggested she was too fat and old to play the part, and absurdly called for her to be nude for a scene in which she delivers a baby because she says he insisted that's what women do when they give birth. Ms. Lively is a mother of 4, by the way. She is not exactly unaware of what that process looks like. She dealt behind the scenes with all that she says happened, and the irony is that you and I would know nothing about it if Mr. Baldoni hadn't allegedly tried to harm her reputation and was successful in doing so, at which point she felt she had little choice but to sue him and make it public. The complaint And also, this is an additional fact that I know from my other reading. She had started to ask her husband, Ryan Reynolds, to come to set with her, which historically was not something she ever asked of him on any of the other things that she worked on. So obviously there was a reason for that. There was a reason that the rest of the cast unfollowed Justin Baldoni. There was a reason for that. The complaint itself is a kind of reputation management, one that's far more effective than an astroturfing campaign because it's transparent. And another thing is like, so every time someone comes forward with this, it's like, why didn't you say something sooner? Why didn't you say anything? It's like, if this is what Blake Lively, young, blonde, beautiful, straight, white, famous, rich, married to someone rich, married to someone white, married to someone straight, married to someone handsome, like all these things. If this is what Blake Lively had to endure, how can you ever ask why other women don't come forward? You know who's making the allegations and why. You know that a court will evaluate facts and evidence, not just viral gossip and planted stories about a given celebrity often shaped by people you never see. You know the verdict can't be reversed simply by the subterranean digital warfare of PR executives. And you know the reputations of all parties in the end will rise or fall, not on celebrity image making, but on something far closer to the truth. So I think just like, and this is a larger conversation, before we all pile on someone, like it just astounds me that it still has taken, like we still haven't learned our lesson about something coming out, celebrity gossip coming out, heavy celebrity gossip coming out, We all just believe it to be true without doing further investigative journalism on our own, without doing a little bit of additional reading. We scroll, we see something, our brain goes, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or, oh, that's interesting to me. Like, I think that's what our brain does. Our brain goes, oh, that's interesting to me that Blake Lively might be a cunt. That's interesting to me. That's something I like. That aligns with, that piques my interest. So I'm going to believe that and do no further research. But I'm also going to spread this information. I'm going to maybe repost something about it. I'm going to talk about this with my friends. And this is how it gets bigger and bigger. And we all pile on. And then, you know, when the truth is revealed, we go, oh, wow, I can't believe I fell for that again. You can't? Really? You can't? You don't see the pattern here? You don't see the pattern of patriarchy and misogyny that you are being fed and falling for? And again, smart, successful, feminist women are falling for it. And then I just go, what hope do any of us have out here? What hope do any of us have out here? Repulsive. I hope that guy had the worst Christmas ever and an even worse New Year's. Mike, you said you were excited about that. What did you want to say about that?
Yeah, I fell for it.
Yeah, but you're a man.
So?
Well, I think it's like I'm a little bit less surprised when a man falls for it because you haven't undergone the treatment of the machine. Whereas most women, even if it's like a rumor spread in the office about them, have experienced this firsthand.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I have a natural inclination to not trust Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds. Like, I just don't. Everything about them feels very fake and manufactured.
For sure. I mean, to me, again, I just find them to be kind of boring. Ryan Reynolds, I do feel like is a little bit like he's just kind of like someone who wants everyone to have a good time at a party and is, you know, consistently refilling your wine glass and is just like too good to be true. And, you know, I have a bias against him because he broke Alanis Morissette's heart, but that's like a personal thing that, you know.
Yeah, but so did Dave Coulier.
Oh, he's a scumbag.
The guy's got cancer.
I know. Lots of scumbags get cancer.
Yeah, I guess. But no, I just there's something inherently not right with those people. But also, Justin Baldoni is like he's a Hollywood type, so it's like, all right, you get what you deserve. And if you're gonna be that creepy. Yeah. It's like, wasn't this his first shot at being a director too?
Yeah, I go, what are you doing?
I also like.
Well, I mean, Kate Beckinsale goes into this in her rant, but she talks about how, you know, she's been actually hurt in like fight scenes because some actors really get a thrill out of being able to, without getting in trouble, hit a woman. And like, we got a letter on Guys We Fucked not too long ago about a woman who was in some kind of like a boxing class or something, but it was, all gender boxing class. And she was like, I feel like this guy like derives pleasure from hitting me. And I was like, I'm not surprised. Yeah. And it just reminded me of that.
That's nuts. Like, as somebody who has gone to all gender boxing classes, the idea of somebody going heavy on a girl is like, dude, you are going to get the snot beaten out of you by every dude in here.
You would hope, you know, it's just, I don't know.
But, like the idea of him being like, yeah, we gotta add more. The idea of him being like, look, you gotta give birth naked is like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But also the campaign, like the idea of him being like, going the very male approach of being like, this is a story of domestic violence. It needs to end. And her being like, no, it's the story of a woman triumphing over hardship. And
people were part of the smear campaign was even in the talking points. And this is again from additional reading that Blake Lively was given. So when you go on a press tour, first of all, when you're promoting something, I've promoted things on my level that I've been exhausted doing, in LA, working from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. doing press for things. So I can only imagine when you're at the level of Blake Lively, how long these press days are for you. And you're just going, in rooms, in radio stations, on TV shows, getting getting your hair done, getting whatever. So it's just nonstop. Your brain is barely functioning, and you're kind of given these talking points, especially when it's not your own piece of work. So like that's the one good thing about being a comic. I'm basically always promoting something that I created, wrote, whatever, so I can describe it however I want. But when you're part of a larger thing like a movie that you didn't direct, and I believe she has a producer credit on this, but like, you know, you're given specific talking points about how you need to talk about the movie. And people were shitting on her because it is a story about domestic violence, and she was talking about it in very flowery language. But that was part of the smear campaign. They purposely gave her these really shallow talking points and told her to talk about this film in a bubbly and lighthearted manner because they knew it would make women especially turn on her. And it worked like a fucking charm. It worked like a fucking charm. My question in all of this, and this is not to be victim blaming, but again, just like you need to ask questions that are sometimes unsavory to get to the bottom of something. It's like, okay, I can understand why perhaps she wanted to keep the things that happened to her on set private and just was like going to deal with it, you know, with her own legal team or whatever, or just like, you know, have her husband there or whatever. I'm sure it's something she talked about, you know, with Ryan and whatever. That decision is hers and that's personal. And she probably was like, you know what, it's just not worth it. I feel like it, you know, it will maybe tarnish my public image more than it will feel satisfactory to gain, you know, this justice or whatever her thought process was. I don't know. That's her personal choice. But what did confuse me was that she wasn't smart enough to kind of push back, knowing the film that she made, on why the talking points were so flowery and shallow. That's what and this like choice that she made to kind of, I think she was also like hawking her alcoholic beverage line in a lot of the interviews. That to me seems like not a good choice. You're like, where did that come from? And at what point, like, yeah, I understand that you were set up, but also it's like, you need to have some control over how you're talking about the work that you do. Are you an artist or are you a robot? And I think a lot of these people are robots, so. But that to me is the only thing that's like, why did you not speak up and say, just as someone, you know, not even, I don't think she's a survivor herself, but you're like, just as someone, well, I mean, now she is, but you're just like, as, not of domestic violence, but of fucking abuse for sure. You're like, as someone who's just like a woman and who played this role, why is this the way that we're choosing to talk about it? And I don't know. I mean, maybe the PR team presented it in such a well thought out way that she didn't question it. But that's to me the question that I had. And what also bothered me is that publicity, you know, is a pretty, at least in New York, is pretty female leaning. I know a lot more female publicists than I know male publicists, right? So a lot of the PR team, you know, it's communication. So obviously it makes sense that women would be in this business more than men. And like when you see the email exchanges of Justin and his team setting up this smear campaign, it's women who are 100% aware of what they're doing and are not only going along with it, but are getting giddy. There's exchanges about how, wow, the internet is responding to this even more than we thought they would. Like they truly don't care about just spreading, absolutely ruining or attempting to ruin someone's career. And it's mostly women doing it to women. And I was just like, repulsed by it. I'm like, what are you guys, all failed actresses who wish so badly that you could be, you know, Serena Vanderwoodson, I believe is the name on Gossip Girl. You're like, you wanted to be Serena so bad when you were young and things didn't pan out and you're not as hot as her. And so now you get pleasure, some high school level healing pleasure in bringing her down. Yuck. You go to therapy too. You go to therapy and drop Justin Baldoni off along the way. Disgusting. Justin Baldoni needs so much more than therapy though. That's not even going to help. Justin Baldoni is the type of person who's gone to therapy and has been playing mind games with the therapist and probably goes to a female therapist, even though he knows it needs a male therapist to beat him into shape. And he just goes and sits down for an hour every week and charms his female therapist. Gag me. Okay, moving on. You know how some people decide to start the new year with a fresh, laid-back vibe? Not me. Thank you so much to all my patrons. If you want to join the Without a Country Patreon, it is www.patreon.com/withoutacountry. I want to give one more shout out to Hannah Pendergrass. If you are in Chicago, if you're Chicago WACO, or if you're visiting Chicago, our Hannah Pendergrass, our very own, your almighty dictator, is a hairstylist and colorist based out of her own private studio salon in the West Town neighborhood of Chicago. With 9 years in the industry, Hannah specializes in hair color and extensions. New year, new you, perhaps. She is committed to quality and sustainability, exclusively using products from Davines. Davines is a certified B Corporation with ethically produced hair care. Hannah can collaborate with you or dictate your hair goals. The choice is yours. Again, if you want to book an appointment or purchase products from her, like if you have your own stylist but you want to support her, you can purchase hair products. And it's always good. And this, I'm not just saying this because I hate Amazon or something. I truly mean this. Having worked in the wellness industry for a long time, I worked at a spa on Park Avenue, New York City for many years. The one thing I would not, after working there, ever purchase online is like skincare products or hair products. They sell a lot of fakes on there. You get a lot of things that are not actually what they should be. You should really be buying your hair care from a salon, if at possible, and your skincare from like a spa. Most spas, you can just walk in and they have like a little shop area just to make sure you're really getting what the bottle says and that it's not expired, et cetera, et cetera. So you can book an appointment or purchase products through her. Her Instagram is at hairbyhannah_Chicago, and her Hannah is spelled HANNAH. Or you can go over to her website, which is www.hannahpendergrass, exactly how it sounds.com. Now let's do a quick WACO Patreon roll call. Our dictator is, of course, Hannah Pendergrass. Our capitalist pigs, welcome to some new ones. Kimberly Taylor, Fright Lab, Emily Sorallo, Rebecca_99, Hillary, Jessica Parker, Emily Aziz, Ryan Beckland, Erin Fejas, Joy Turner, Dylan, Joe P, Nicole Perks, Elle Watson, Holly Clark, Joshua Callahan, Stephanie Anderson, Brandon Oglesby, Lauren Manu, Carrie, Caroline Bonner, Erica Backus, Lisa Oshbacher, Barbara Mondragon, Delaney Davler, Randy Peterson, Tegan, McKenna Hansen, Leah M. Ellers, Laura Lynn Pearson, Christopher Fanguy, Nora Smark, EMCP333, Camilla Driggs, Jenny Lynn, Carolyn, Katie Robbins, Jennifer Daly, Catherine Best, Tim Ackerman, Boo Batsy, Lakin Keen, Lil Floha, Jesse Perrigagne. If you could hear me butcher this every week, just send me an email with how to properly say this. Audra Williams, Shelby Snyder, Michael Fow, Amber Christensen, Talene Georgian, Lila Lee Soli, Bridget, Marisa James, Chuggle, Brittany Gustus, and Alex Hart Sierra Mataro. And my cuties, Skylar Urito, Maria, Casey, Jasmine G, Kenny, Caitlin Owens, Jim Black Squirrel, Ivy Espana, Lily, Justin Choi, Tina Nelson, Brianna Middleman, Samantha Johnson, Esther Van Alst, Lauren Natinsky, Jessica Michelle, Laura Wolf, Morgan, Amanda, Elizabeth Snell, Emma Flowers, Emily, Amir Hassan, Elise McCall, Long Arms Length, Sophia Tauber, Gemma James, Miranda, Emily Eckelberger, Cavs 138, Zoe Ross, Annie Green, Heidi Lundquist, Nicole, Carl Murphy, Margarita Kranova, Beth Brunner, Lauren Morkill, Chris Gordon, Tori Colster, Desiree Coutinho, Kristen Hood, Sammy Lane, Ms. Mack, and Emily LaFontano. Thank you for an amazing year, for supporting the show, for supporting all the websites and news sources that we use that all require additional monthly payments, for helping to pay Mike and, graphics and merch. I was going to release merch for the holidays. I put a pin in it because I have something that I actually need to raise money for. So you'll be learning about that very quickly. I think it should be no problem legally to use stuff from here. But again, you'll hear about more about that as the new year continues. But pretty soon into it, you'll hear about this. All right, let's go into our WACO mailbag. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to keep this name anonymous, so I am going to, just because I think it would be much more much worse if I was supposed to keep it anonymous and I didn't. So good morning, Corinne. And if you want to email me, it's withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. Good morning, Corinne. I was interviewed for the War Horse through a connection from a network of female officers, meaning military. I am a member of, and I wanted to pass it along to you. With the nominations of men in our government who have been accused and or convicted of sexual assault and harassment of women, there are many of us who are concerned about our future in the service. As a woman in a combat MOS, I am highly concerned about being removed from my position and being redesignated as a non-combat MOS. While I have been grappling with one of the strongest bastion of misogyny in the Marine Corps, I have earned my place and I feel strongly about my position in the organization. This topic is largely unheard because the military has no obligation to solve the real underbelly of the problem of sexual assault in its ranks. You know, the military is a lot like college campuses. Like, it's kind of like its own country, and the people in that country must abide by the rules that they make up. It only does what is required by Congress, which is then more often than not becomes cases that are dismissed based on lack of evidence, and women are forced out of the service to manage this issue on their own. This is even more prevalent because the VA's office and the country at large only provides lip service to veterans. We're seeing it now in the discussions about how much it truly costs to provide health care to our service members. But the first instinct is to argue on behalf of the men who were most visible in the last global conflict. We have no vocabulary or desire to address the elephant in the room. Women are not welcome, and when they are assaulted, we disregard their service because it wasn't in a combat zone. The conceptual framework of women in the military is so dynamic that everyone, and I do mean everyone, is unwilling to discuss it. And again, this is a topic that we've talked about and interviewed guests on Guys We Fucked About, but I think it is extremely relevant, if not more so relevant on this show. It takes too much time. However, there is a huge community of women in combat jobs who haven't gotten the chance to do the things we were trained to do before individuals like Pete Hegseth remove qualified, competent, and willing participants, i.e. women, in critical jobs, combat jobs. Because of course, and again, this is very similar to the Hollywood stories that we hear, you think, oh, well, why aren't we removing, when these allegations come forward, why aren't we removing the people who the allegations are against? But no, that's not what we do. We remove the person who brought the conversation to surface to begin with, which is so often the woman, because we're like, oh, well, even though it was the man many times who started the problem by committing this assault, right? It was the woman who kind of created the problem for us by talking about it, because the guy, he sexually assaulted and he just harmed one person. Well, now this woman said, hey, I was sexually assaulted. And now she's creating a real clerical problem for so many people. And we don't want to have to deal with that. So let's just fire her and silence her. And that's much easier. That's a much faster fix, right? No one is asking for lowered standards, let alone the women who have qualified and fight for their place in a job they want. But this argument is always used to defend the position that women do not belong in combat jobs. This is critically important for my peers, friends, and fellow service members who are doing the things we should be doing. We want to serve our country, not to be told there's not a place for us. Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. As long as we as a country need an active military, which is going to be forever, the way things are going, I want people who want to serve their country to be first in line to be able to do so, okay? Because what's the next choice? A draft? A draft where people who aren't excited about that are just plucked off their couch to serve, that they're not ready to do. They didn't make that decision on their own. Let people who want to serve. They're doing us all a fucking huge service. All right. And then she includes the article and she said, I hope this piques your interest. And it certainly did. And we didn't do a WACO mailbag last week. So this is from the warhorse.org. I don't think I've ever read anything from the Warhorse before. And this piece is by Soner Kurt. KEHRT. It says, what sexual assault survivors in the military say about the next 4 years. Pete Hegseth is fighting allegations of sexual misconduct and heavy drinking. Would his leadership at the Pentagon degrade the military's treatment of women? A Navy submariner who said she was sexually assaulted multiple times, an Army major who chose to never report her assault, a Marine Corps sexual assault response coordinator who worries she is being discriminated against because she's a woman, a former Defense Department sexual assault victim advocate of the year. Over the past several weeks, the Warhorse spoke with a dozen current service members across the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines about their experiences with sexual assault in uniform as survivors, advocates, and allies. I want to have faith in the system because I think a lot of progress has been made, one Army sexual assault survivor who works in Army medicine told the Warhorse. But for me, it's unknown. As the military continues to grapple with its past treatment of female members and considers its future leadership under President Donald Trump, their voices are critical. But having a say isn't part of the deal when you're in the military. Service members are restricted in how they can weigh into a debate now roiling Washington over the nomination of Pete Hegseth as the nation's next Secretary of Defense. He is defending himself from allegations of sexual misconduct and excessive alcohol use. Fun. Those go great together. The Warhorse wanted to capture their sentiments at this critical juncture. That was very Freudian. About what they've experienced during their service, their thoughts about the future, and why they continue to serve their country. Our interviews included officers and enlisted ranks, as well as men and women, and represent a range of geographic locations and military specialties. We've agreed not to name them to protect those who are survivors of sexual assault and to allow others to freely share their views on the military's treatment of women and their hopes and worries about the next 4 years. If we start to turn away from being inclusive and if we start to treat people without dignity and respect, I can see the culture changing, said the Army survivor who worries about a cancerous effect. We're a stronger service because of our differences. A positive trend. The military has struggled for decades to stem its problem with sexual assault, regardless of which party has held the White House. Some estimates suggest that as many as 1 in 4 military women are assaulted, but only a fraction choose to report their assaults. Nearly 2/3 of all women who report sexual misconduct say they experience retaliation, according to Pentagon data. And a 2020 GAO report found that women are nearly 30% more likely than men to leave military service. Why could that be? Earlier this year, because women, we carry on. We do things. We're loyal. We do things. We finish what we started. So why would we be leaving at such a high rate? Earlier this year, the Pentagon released data it hailed as cautiously optimistic, showing that the number of sexual assaults in the military decreased for the first time since 2015. But 11 of the 12 service members we interviewed said they were worried about the future. If Hegseth is confirmed as Secretary of Defense, the top 2 positions in the military chain of command will be filled by men who have been accused of sexual assault. It's disheartening to see the mechanisms of power appear indifferent to these serious accusations. An Army infantry sergeant told the Warhorse, "We need leaders who reflect our highest ideals, not one to undermine them with a lack of accountability." Half of the service members we spoke with identified as sexual assault survivors. 2 other service members said they have experienced sexual harassment or gender discrimination. 3 work or have worked in sexual assault prevention and response in the military. Some say they reported their assaults formerly, others did not. Some have watched fellow service members struggle with stigma and the after effects of assault. Hegseth's path to defense secretary is in question as allegations of heavy drinking and past misconduct emerge. But most of the service members who spoke with the Warhorse said the very fact of his nomination, whether or not it survives, shows a disregard from the very top for their service and the barriers that women and men still face in expecting a workplace free from sexual violence. It doesn't matter if Pete Hegseth is never confirmed, one officer who has been recognized by the Pentagon as a victim advocate of the year said. The fact that he was even nominated is setting back where we are in the DoD culturally by an amount that is personally terrifying and professionally, having worked so hard to get us to a different place, infuriating. Military's drinking culture. Sexual assault rates have remained high and convictions stubbornly low across the military branches, despite more than 150 congressional requirements and 50 different initiatives from secretaries of defense aimed at stemming the problem over the past 15 years. Last year, only 16% of reported sexual assaults went to court martial, according to Pentagon data. About 40% of those cases were then dismissed, or the alleged perpetrator was released from the military in lieu of completing the court martial. The number of sexual misconduct cases had long been on the rise when Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin took charge at the Pentagon. He has made addressing sexual harassment and assault and improving military culture a priority during his tenure. In 2021, he commissioned an independent review board to study the problem, and last year oversaw the implementation of one of its primary recommendations, transferring the decision on whether to prosecute sexual assault cases from the military command to an independent office, a move long sought by victim advocates. Austin has also signed off on the board's 81 other recommendations, which range from increasing survivors' access to civilian care to improving Pentagon oversight of alcohol policies. Advocates for sexual assault survivors have frequently pointed to the military's heavy drinking culture as a factor in its difficulties stemming sexual abuse in uniform. Of course, The New Yorker and other news outlets have reported that Hegseth's alleged history of alcohol use caused problems for him in previous jobs, a concern that has been at the center of Hegseth's recent conversations with lawmakers whose support he will need to be confirmed as defense secretary. And I do have some empathy for him there. Like, if he legit has an addiction problem, all right, okay, acknowledge, fix. Last week, Hegseth, a Fox News host and former Army National Guardsman, promised to stop drinking if he gets the job. How about you just stop drinking because you have a problem? Like, that's like, oh, I'll do this good thing that I need to do for the health and safety of myself and others, but only if I get what I want to get. What? Just stop drinking, dude. The New Yorker.
What kind of Lent-ass government appointment is this?
That's really funny.
It's nuts.
The New Yorker also detailed a whistleblower report that described a history of personal misconduct and sexual impropriety, including allegations that Hegseth sexually pursued female employees at Concerned Veterans for America, the nonprofit he ran from 2013 to 2016, and that he brought his team to a strip club where he had to be stopped from joining the dancers on stage. That part it doesn't so much bother me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this not America? Are guys not allowed to have fun?
I mean, getting drunk and trying to get on stage with the dancers, I feel like is just like, I know it's frowned upon, and like certainly like touching the dancers, like, but there is etiquette that needs to be learned, and I have never myself gotten on stage with the dancers, but god damn did I want to. And when you're paying $600 for a bottle of $40 vodka and you force yourself to drink it, that's what happens. So that one I'm less upset about. I've been kind of floored by how culturally accepted it's kind of that to me. That's kind of like, like when people try to rush the stage when you're on stage doing comedy. Yeah, I get it. I've been kind of floored by how culturally accepted and culturally propagated toxic masculinity is within the services. But are you surprised? That's what the surprise bothers me. Have you not been paying attention within the service?
It's literally war. Where else are guys supposed to be guys?
Yeah. So you think that part of being a guy is sexually assaulting people?
No, I think part of military culture is inherently misogynistic, though.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also sexually assaulting like some of the behavior that I see men exhibit in both sports and military service to each other, I think is extremely harmful. And I think that men are just like, don't understand how harmful it is, or feel like, quote the F word, quote unquote the F word for pointing it out,
No, they don't understand how trauma is, but they do make sure to propagate the cycle by taking it out on the rookies next year.
Yeah.
There's nothing speaks to cycle of trauma more than hazing.
Damn. Preach, Michael. Accepted and culturally propagated toxic masculinity is within the services. A female Air Force pilot who deployed to Afghanistan told the War Horse. I think that it'll only be made even more palatable. In 2017, a woman accused Hegseth of sexually assaulting her at a conference in a report to police in Monterey, California, though no charges were filed. He maintains the encounter was consensual. Tim Parlator, Hegseth's lawyer, has acknowledged in media reports that Hegseth paid the woman an undisclosed settlement in 2020 in exchange for her signing a non-disclosure agreement. The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, Hegseth told reporters in November. Don Christensen, the former chief prosecutor of the Air Force and former president of Protect Our Defenders, which works to end sexual assault in the military, said that type of accusation at the top of the military chain of command may make it harder for survivors to find justice. Here, you have a guy who has a police report that looks like hundreds of police reports I've read on sexual assault, where there's alcohol involved, where the victim has a spotty memory, he said. Those are the kinds of allegations we see day in and day out in the military. Oomph that we need. As Hegseth works to shore up support on Capitol Hill, he is facing a Congress with the highest ever number of female veterans. Senator Joni Ernst, Republican of Iowa, a retired Iowa National Guard lieutenant colonel, and herself a survivor of sexual assault, has publicly expressed reservations on Hegseth's nomination. After 2 meetings with Hegseth in the last week, Ernst said she is committed to seeing him through the confirmation process, though she has not indicated whether she will vote to confirm him. She told reporters on Monday that Hegseth has promised to select a senior official who will work towards preventing sexual assault in the military. The War Horse reached out to Hegseth and his lawyer for comment about the concerns raised by the service members with whom we spoke. We did not receive a response. President-elect Donald Trump has also been accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women. Last year, he was found liable in a civil court for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll in 1996 in order to pay her $5 million. At the beginning of his first term in office, Trump enjoyed support within the military, according to polling from Military Times, though that support fell off as the 2020 election approached. A GOVX poll this June found that 66% of active duty service members intended to vote for Donald Trump. One Navy officer who transferred to the reserves after her sexual assault told the War Horse she did not know much about Hegseth, but she does not believe the allegations against Trump. Well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, miss. I am very excited for Mr. Trump to be our commander-in-chief again, she said. Cool. Like other service members who spoke with the War Horse, she was frustrated with the way the Navy handled her assault report. But she worried the military is too focused on things that take away from core skills, and she said she hoped that under Trump, the military would focus on higher quality but fewer and more efficient training for things like preventing sexual assault. I feel like we have lost a lot of our tactical mindset, the Navy officer said, and I feel like Trump, will have that oomph that we need to be war fighters again. But other service members who spoke with the War Horse said they worried that dismissing the value of diverse contributions will undermine unit cohesion and mission readiness, arguing that the two men's histories could signal a tacit acceptance of similar behavior in the ranks. You are now being given permission by the uppermost leadership to degrade your fellow service members, an Air Force officer said. I think that if people try to push back against that, they have a very easy argument to say, well, that's what the president says or thinks, and that's what the what is this? Secretary of Defense. I didn't know that's the way you abbreviate it. SecDef says or thinks. Life givers, not life takers. Hegseth has reportedly said that the military's commitment to diversity undermines its lethality, lamenting in his book, The War on Warriors, what he called a more empathetic and effeminate military. He has said that women should not serve in combat. Women are life givers, not life takers. Hegseth told conservative podcaster Ben Shapiro this summer. Dads push us to take risks. Mom put the training wheels on our bikes, he wrote in his book. My dad taught me how to ride a bike and there was training wheels on it because my dad wasn't a fucking asshole. We need moms, but not in the military, especially in combat units. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. Earlier this week, Hegseth appeared to roll back his comments, telling Fox News host Sean Hannity that women are some of our greatest warriors, our best warriors. I look forward to being a secretary for all our warriors, men and women, for the amazing contributions they make in our military, he said. Women made up about 18% of active duty service members in 2022, the most recent data available ranging from 9% of the Marine Corps, which has the lowest percentage of women, to nearly 22% of the Air Force. Almost a decade after the defense secretary at the time, Ash Carter, removed the ban on women in combat, about 4,500 women serve in combat roles in the Army and the Marines. More than 150 women have completed the grueling Army Ranger course. Women who spoke with the War Horse said they were worried that Hegseth's view on women in the military could directly impact their careers. I am very happy I was selected to serve in a combat role. A Marine who has also worked as a sexual assault response coordinator told the War Horse, I want to deploy, I want to do my job, I want to do the things I've been trained to do. And I want you to do them because I don't want to do them. Also, I'm 39. But Hegseth's views could impact women's decisions to join the military, says Rachel Van Landingham, a retired Air Force JAG and a professor at Southwestern Law School. Why should I serve in a military that doesn't value me and that I don't think has my back, she said. And I've thought that so many times. I've thought that exact thought so many times, not just for women, but also for trans people as well, right? Whether they be trans men or trans women. Most of the service members who spoke with the War Horse said they would hesitate to recommend the military to young women today or would only recommend it with extreme caution. The military, Van Landingham said, needs to be doubling down and being able to maximize the potential of everyone that's actually willing to raise their hand and serve. Amen. Which is still a tiny, tiny percentage of our overall country. And that is my thought in a nutshell. Most people do not want to be in the military because it is grueling, it is scary, it is hard. So anyone who wants to serve our country, I think should be fucking treated well and should be able to do so in a way that is like the only jeopardy. These people are already putting themselves in so much jeopardy protecting the country. Then they're also in jeopardy when they're in their bunks, when they're around people who are supposed to be on their team. Fuck no. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. All right. I've been really going on a lot of rants today. I'm just getting so angry, guys. This is the end of the year, so I saw a lot of news outlets are kind of doing like a best of 2024. I think it's ridiculous, really, to post an old news article. So I'm certainly not doing that. But instead of doing like a main story, I'm doing kind of just like a overall helping of a bunch of things. So this is from GUUURL. I have a lot of things that I picked up. I am not going to be able to get to everything, but I'm going to get to the things that I think will pique your guys' interest the most because there's so much little stuff that I wanted to get to. And I tried to pick shorter articles for these ones so we could kind of learn about more things instead of like the absolute most in-depth research on everything. All right, so this first thing is about the Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and MAGA overall infighting over H-1B visas. And so this is from newsnationnow.com. It's not like a source I use a lot. But its bias is listed as center. It has a credibility bias rating of pretty low. So that's where we're coming at from that perspective, just because I know a lot of you probably won't be familiar with this. So, and this original article they took from The Hill, or like parts of it from The Hill, I believe, which is a little right-leaning. Tech mogul Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have faced backlash within President-elect Trump's base after two signaled their support for H-1B work visa, a key program to attract international talent that's been criticized as too complicated and susceptible to abuse. What is it? This reminds me of everything in America, right? everything in America too complicated and susceptible to abuse. We see that around abortion laws. We see that around health insurance. We see that around even if you look into running for a specific political office. They make it really complicated, so you go, ugh, I don't even know how to go about starting this. The backlash heightened on the tech billionaire's social media platform X within the last week, as Ramaswamy and Musk have faced scrutiny from some in the GOP, including far-right activist Laura Loomer and other hardline anti-immigration Republicans. The debate originated from a suggestion last month from Sriram Krishnan, Trump's pick for White House policy advisor on artificial intelligence, that Musk examine removing caps on green cards for skilled immigrants. Krishnan's comments resurfaced in recent days after he was appointed by Trump to serve in his incoming administration. The dispute also comes as the Biden administration announced a rule earlier this month clarifying who can apply for the visas, which followed years of lobbying for a more streamlined H-1B process. Some Democratic lawmakers previously called on the Biden administration to address gaps in the immigration system to prepare for the incoming Trump administration's expected crackdown on immigration. Here is what you need to know about the H-1B visas as the program continues to make headlines. What is an H-1B visa? So the H-1B program is for employers looking to hire people into specialty jobs who are lawfully admitted into the U.S. but are not lawful permanent residents, generally defined as tourists, students, or temporary workers. The visas are typically valid for 3 years, though they can be extended for up to 6 years, according to the Labor Department. Yeah, and you know why this is happening? Because we're all fucking so stupid. We're all so stupid in this country, and we have no goddamn skills. So, yeah, if you're worried that immigrants are taking your jobs, they are, because you're stupid. But they're not taking the job. They're not taking a job. Actually, they're not taking your jobs. They're taking jobs, but they're not taking your jobs because you are not eligible for the jobs, because you don't have any of the skills needed to do those jobs, because you're dumb. These specialty occupations require specialized knowledge and at least a bachelor's degree or its equivalent, according to the Labor Department. These are jobs in tech and medicine and stuff that they would, I'm sure they'd love to give them to Americans, but no Americans are fucking qualified for these jobs. The purpose of the program is to help employers temporarily hire qualified workers with certain skills and abilities that cannot be obtained from the U.S. workforce. Yeah, and not to mention, I'm guessing that people who need this job to stay in a country that they want to stay in have a bit of a better work ethic too. What is the H-1B application process? People looking to apply for the program must file an application for the visa with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, which includes certain application fees. Applicants are required to have a valid passport and documents showing that they are a qualified individual in a specialty occupation, as well as proof of a valid job offer from a U.S. employer that is willing to sponsor the visa. It's not exactly the same, but I've definitely written letters for friends of mine. They're mostly like Canadian friends who I have to sign off and say, like, this is a comedian who has reached a certain level, who has a certain level of talent that it does not come, you do not come across every day. And so it's like, yeah, if you've reached a certain level, you're bringing a certain amount of level or talent or skill to the job, then yeah, come. Employers must also file form, is that I or an I-129, known as the Petition for a Non-Immigrant Worker, with USCIS on behalf of the employee describing the job, employer's background, and foreign worker qualifications. On January 17th, 2025, the USCIS said it would be publishing a revised edition of the form in accordance with the recently announced rule. How many people can be awarded H-1Bs? The Department of Homeland Security, through USCIS, is legally limited to award 65,000 H-1B visas per year, with an additional 20,000 for applicants with advanced degrees. Many nonprofits are exempt from that that cap. H-1B subject to the cap regularly exceed the number of legally available visas, which are issued annually at the start of the fiscal year. Applicants are chosen by a lottery system for review, meaning eligible applicants are often denied due to chance. Cap-exempt organizations can petition for H-1Bs year-round, and they are not subject to a statutory limit. So if this bothers you, I would say get a skill and stop trying to be a TikTok influencer. Thank you. I mean, my brain is broken by how many people I watched eat the new Taco Bell chicken nuggets over the past week. And I like food influencing, and I'm disgusted with myself. All right, so that's MAGA infighting. How long is this one? All right, this is not that long. You might have heard China hacked the Treasury Department in a major breach. Whoops. This is from the New York Times. And again, this is like China is such an interesting topic because so often we get into this conversation and people are crying xenophobia immediately. But then it's like, we do got to watch out for China. Okay. The episode comes at a particularly sensitive moment, just as the Biden White House is dealing with one of the most far-reaching and damaging hacks into American infrastructure in the cyber age. And again, highly recommend you watching that documentary by Ronan Farrow. Oh, sorry, it's a New York Times article, so you know. Why would it load properly? Can you pull it up on this screen now that we have the screen in front of me, Michael? I'll start it here, but actually I'm fine. One of China's intelligence agencies hacked the U.S. Treasury Department, gaining access to the workstations of government employees and unclassified documents, the Biden administration said on Monday, the latest in a series of embarrassing surveillance operations against major American institutions. It was unclear from the Treasury's limited first account of the episode exactly what the hackers were seeing, but senior officials with access to the intelligence on the breach said that it appeared to be entirely an espionage operation and not part of other Chinese efforts to insert malicious computer code into utility grids and water supply systems, giving them a capability to shut off critical American infrastructure. Let me just stop here and say, okay, I know a lot of people are really upset with the amount of money that we are giving to Israel in America. It seems like, why the fuck are we doing that? And I agree. Why are we doing that? Especially when we seemingly aren't even getting Israel's information about how to ward off enemy surveillance. Okay. That's like one of the main things that Israel is good at and known for. So if we are giving them all this money, they should have at least be making sure that our shit can't get hacked. And obviously that's not even happening. So what are we doing? In a letter informing lawmakers of the episode, the Treasury Department said it had been notified on December 8th by a third-party software service company, Beyond Trust, that the hacker had obtained a security key that allowed it to gain remote access to certain Treasury workstations and documents on them. Based on available indicators, the incident has been attributed to a China state-sponsored Advanced Persistent Threat, APT, actor. The letter said, in accordance with the Treasury policy, intrusions attributable to an APT are considered a major cyber security incident. Top Chinese officials have a deep interest in the activities of the Treasury Department, which oversees sensitive data about global financial systems and estimates of China's own troubled economy. The department also implements sanctions against Chinese firms, including in recent times those aiding Russia in the war against Ukraine. Earlier in the year, Chinese intelligence cracked email accounts used by Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo as she was making determinations about new export controls on advanced semiconductors and other key technology in an attempt to slow their acquisition by Chinese firms. Similar efforts were made against targets in the State Department. But the admission by the administration about the Treasury Department comes at a particularly sensitive moment, just as the Biden White House is dealing with one of the most far-reaching and damaging hacks into American infrastructure in the cyber age. In recent months, a series of revelations have shown how a sophisticated Chinese intelligence group called Salt Typhoon penetrated deep into at least 9 U.S. telecommunications firms. That breach exploited critical gaps in the patched-together U.S. telecommunications infrastructure, giving the hackers access to not only text messages, but also phone conversations. Investigators said that among the targets were the commercial, unencrypted phone lines used by President-elect Donald J. Trump, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, oh God, I fucking had to repress the fact that he's going to be our vice president, and top national security officials, though it is not clear what conversations, if any, the hackers were able to monitor. The Salt Typhoon hackers also obtained a nearly complete list of phone numbers the Justice Department has wiretapped to monitor people suspected of crimes or espionage, giving the Chinese government insight into which Chinese spies the United States has identified and which it has missed. As a result, the breach has concerned counterintelligence officials who fear that Beijing will learn who is under suspicion and who is not. The Treasury Department said it had worked with the FBI, the intelligence community, and other investigators to determine the impact of the latest breach. The compromised service has been taken offline, and there is no evidence that the Chinese hackers still have access to Treasury information, the department said. In a statement, a Treasury spokesman said that the department took threats against its systems and the data they hold seriously, and that it would continue to work with the private sector and government agencies to protect the financial system from hacking. The Treasury Department did not clarify when the episode took place, but said it would reveal more details in a forthcoming report to Congress. Chinese officials have long denied any government role in hacking and have set up dialogues with the United States to work together on cybersecurity. Earlier this month, officials from the Treasury Department traveled to China for a round of meetings of their economic and financial working groups, which cover collaboration on cybersecurity issues. In response to the Salt Typhoon hack, the Commerce Department said this month that it would ban the few remaining operations of China Telecom, one of the country's biggest communications firms, from the United States. So, Mike, in your opinion, what are we getting from Israel that they don't have time to give us some surveillance help? Like, what are we getting from them?
Donations to our politicians.
So just, you mean just like personal or like to their campaigns?
Campaign donations, yeah.
Right.
That's it.
It doesn't seem like...
And the existential promise that as long as they exist, the Middle East will not be fully lost to jihadists.
Okay, that seems like more...
That's it.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think, again, and this is like, you can't even talk about stuff like this because then people just call you like, call it Islamophobia, but I don't subscribe to this. We always see ourselves get in the same pickle, like I said, with any conversation about China. And I mean, this is, when you have a conversation about it, it's not about like, oh, all Muslims are bad people. Like, of course not. Like, what? That's a crazy idea. But to say that like jihadists don't want to kind of like eradicate Western culture and think that it's like disgusting and is ruining the world. Like that's also, you're living in a fantasy land if you don't think that's true. Like they say it outright. They're not trying to hide it.
Yeah, but they also don't have the ability to do that if we take away the open borders that have plagued Europe, because you have such like an easy access to it from Africa. Like the Muslim world is right there to Europe. Right. It's not here, right? They don't have the power to quote unquote, tamper with our Western world. The only thing they have the power to do is eradicate Israel. If, we back off and stop giving them support, and then they would just have the whole Middle East. Right. And for some reason, the boomers think that is a tragedy. That would be a real problem if that happened. Well,
I mean, I think the eradication of Israel would be a problem.
I don't think it would affect my life.
Yeah, but that's such American mentality. Many things that are happening internationally won't directly affect our life, I guess. But I mean, I think that's also like not necessarily true. I think the things that happen in other countries do affect the overall culture of humanity, like the climate of humanity, and they do affect us more than we think they do, which is why I've even on this show have started to cover international news more, because especially with a larger conversation that we've been having on this podcast about the move back to right and far right politics, and it's not just happening in America, it's a shift that we see happening internationally. So I think these things do affect. And another thing that we've seen over the past couple of years is women's rights being taken away internationally. And certainly those are, bigger things happening for women in other countries than they are in America. But it's a regression, I think, worldwide for sure.
I just don't understand the concern with it will never be even a unified Middle East, because the Kurds will always be fighting with the Sunnis and Shiites will always be fighting. Like, they will always have their own internal conflicts. Those people have literally been fighting to the death over the same patch of sand.
Oh, I agree.
For thousands of years.
I 100% agree with you.
So why do we need a stronghold in there?
I don't think we personally need a stronghold, but what I will say is I do think that eradicating Israel would be a problem because of what Israel means.
What does it mean?
Israel was created because Jews don't have a homeland and they needed a homeland. Okay, that's what it means.
So give them a homeland where not everyone on every side of them wants to kill them.
I say let's give them Texas. You didn't like that idea?
Give them Canada.
Well, we don't own Canada.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we own them.
No, I mean, literally, Trump is. Did you hear? Trump was saying. Trump was like, "Yo, A, you're going to be the 51st state. B, I think Wayne Gretzky should run for the Prime Minister of Canada, or as it will soon be known, the Governor of Canada."
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm sure we can work out a deal with the Canadian. You know that, I think it's only 10% of Canada is actually inhabited. Mm-hmm. Like, the rest is just nothing. It's a barren wasteland, almost like a desert.
Right.
Just a snowy one.
Yeah, I was like, not a desert. But
no, you can a
tundra.
The Arctic is a desert.
Like a desert with sand?
No, it's considered a barren place where stuff can't grow is considered a desert.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that was like a tundra.
I thought
when it was cold, it was called a tundra, and it was warm, it was called a desert. I didn't know a desert could be cold.
Wait.
Before I just believe you, let me look at this.
Okay.
I just get myself into pickles a lot of time.
Yeah, listening to me.
Yeah, desert definition.
Yes, the Arctic is considered a desert, specifically a polar desert, because it receives
polar desert. Okay.
Very little precipitation despite its cold temperatures, meaning it fits the definition of a desert with low rainfall, even though it's not a hot, sandy environment like many people would picture when they think of a desert.
Why is this not even giving me?
So.
Okay. Well, I mean, because it says a dry, barren area of land, especially one covered with sand, that is characteristically desolate, waterless, and without vegetation. And then what's a tundra definition? A vast, flat, treeless Arctic region of Europe, Asia, and North America in which the subsoil is permanently frozen. Okay, so they are pretty close in definition. Okay.
So that's it.
And then there's a steppe, there's a savanna. A steppe is a dry, grassy plain. Mm-hmm. A savanna is this is the kind of stuff that you learn in social studies in 5th grade and then you never remember again. A savanna is a mixed woodland grassland biome and ecosystem characterized by trees being sufficiently widely spaced so that the canopy, the canopy does not close.
The point I'm making is 90% of Canada's open. Mm-hmm. Let's just section off a little. I'm sure we can make a deal. If you really want Israel to exist that badly, it does not need to be on every side beset by enemies.
That's interesting because I would argue that I think the Jews need a homeland, especially because of the just worldwide hated group of people. And I do find that I do believe the Jews to be in actual danger. That being said, yeah. It seems like maybe let's just move them out of that space. I think if you call Israel your home, that's going to be a tough conversation to have.
Okay, tell that to the Palestinians who called it their home before the Jews moved in.
I hear you. I don't know before, but yeah.
What are you talking about? The before 1940 something when we said, yeah, this is no longer Palestine, this is Israel now. What do you think?
No, I know, but what was the original? How did that go down originally?
You got to get somebody who's got way more schooling on this topic than I do before.
I mean, I think we looked. I think we looked into this when October 7th originally happened. But yeah, all right. We don't have to get into this now. This is a whole other thing. But yes, but yeah. I mean, that's like the thing. I think people don't understand like what like Israel is. And people are also just always confused because they're like, Judaism is a religion. I'm like, yes, but it's also an ethnicity. It's the one thing that's both. And I'm tired of explaining it to people. Daily Beast. Okay. We're going to do a little palate cleanser with our weekly Luigi Mangione update. So, you know, he's in custody. That one guy's doing the Charlie XCX Apple dance outside his prison every day until he gets freed because Gen Z likes to contribute little to nothing. Luigi Mangione, judge, married to former healthcare exec. You guys know I don't mean that. I actually really like Gen Z. Just some things that you do make me laugh, and I know that makes me seem old, but please stop doing dances outside Luigi's this is why we need H1 whatever, but B what is it called? H1B. I was like, that's why we need the H1B visa, because our citizens are doing the Apple dance outside of Luigi Mangione's prison, and in the meantime, China's hacking the Treasury Department. Okay, yeah, so to answer your question,
you don't want to know what the people are doing outside in the countries where they're getting H1B visas.
They're not doing the Apple dance.
No, they're pooping in the streets.
Oh my God, Michael.
That's a real thing.
People poop in the streets. Ari Shafir pooped at Skankfest.
that was a dramatic performance. Covered under parody law.
Stop it. You stop it right now. Living in New York City, I've seen human feces on the ground. I've seen people poop many times, and that's also not okay. These people need help. All right. Luigi Mangione, judge, married to former healthcare exec. This is from the Daily Beast by Amethyst Martinez. Breaking news intern. She looks to be about 12. Okay, but she loves Luigi, I'm sure. The judge holds between $50,000 and $100,000 in Pfizer, including stock in other healthcare industry companies. Luigi Mangione's pre-trial judge is married to a former executive at Pfizer, according to a shocking report. Are we really that shocked? Magistrate.
I am.
Are you really? You think the government was not going to set this guy up to try and make an example out of him so that no one dares do something like this again? They're going to annihilate this guy. But I also think there's going to be riots in the street.
I doubt that very much. I mean, the public attention span is not what it used to be.
Yeah, but people are obsessed with Luigi in a way that I haven't seen before, like recently.
The issue I have with it, though, if that was a juror on the case, that juror would be thrown out, like without a doubt.
Yeah, it's almost like judges and police are corrupt and in cahoots with each other, Michael.
Yeah, but that feels like there should be like a stopgap in place where it's like this.
You've obviously not watched the TV show Your Honor starring Bryan Cranston because you would not be saying this. Also, highly recommend if you guys did not watch that. I loved that show. And that's not even the kind of show I normally watch. Loved it. Bryan Cranston, everything that man touches turns to gold. All right. Luigi Mangione's pretrial judge is married to a former executive at Pfizer, according to a shocking report. Magistrate Judge Catherine H. Parker, who has handled Mangione's pretrial hearings, is married to Brett Parker, who stopped working at Pfizer in 2010. She also has hundreds of thousands in stock. What is this? A little Nancy Pelosi action? According to reporting by journalist Ken Klippenstein, and he wants Israel to exist. Actually, I'm just adding things now. The judge holds between $50,000 and $100,000 in Pfizer, including stock in other healthcare industry companies like Abbott Laboratories, Viatris, and CRISPR Therapeutics. Her husband still collects a pension from his former employer. Yeah, this is fucking crazy. Parker also has holdings in Alphabet, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, and Apple, amongst others. United is the indecipherable largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart, Mangione's alleged manifesto read. The reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Parker is not expected to handle Mangione's trial for the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Parker did not respond to a request for comment from the Daily Beast. Yeah. All right. Fishy. Yeah, I'm just very interested to see how this is going to play out. And I'm also very interested to see if Oscar Health Insurance still raises my premium by $200 or my monthly payment by $200 like they said they were going to. Because that's whack. If you think in this Luigi Mangione climate that's acceptable, it is not. You know what's also not acceptable? Everything that happened in the Matt Gaetz ethics report. This is from CBS News. God, this guy. We have hated this guy since the very start of this. Oh, sorry. I'm just seeing an ad featuring Rachel Dratch being a tarot card reader, and that's not good. Okay. I love Rachel Dratch. I don't know what she's doing with her life, but I love that woman. Okay. Former Representative Matt Gaetz, a Florida Republican who briefly stood to become President-elect Donald Trump's nominee to be Attorney General, was found by congressional ethics investigators to have paid numerous women, including a 17-year-old girl, for sex and to have purchased and used illegal drugs, including from his Capitol Hill office. Those are among the findings of the long-running investigation by the House Ethics Committee into Gaetz, which concluded the former Florida congressman violated multiple state laws related to sexual misconduct while in office. The full report was released by the committee Monday. The committee determined there is substantial evidence that Representative Gaetz violated House rules and other standards of conduct prohibiting prostitution, statutory rape, illicit drug use, impermissible gifts, special favors or privileges, and obstruction of Congress, the 37-page report concludes. And it's interesting because obviously statutory rape is rape, and it should not be permissible for anyone. And I can understand why you shouldn't be able to use drugs when you're, serving the people. But I feel like you should be able to hire as I was told it's called, full service sex worker if you are in a place where prostitution is legal. Why not? What's the problem there? These guys love to rape. Why don't they just put some money in some small business workers' pockets? On Monday, Gaetz filed a lawsuit in federal court seeking to block the release of the report, saying that he is now a private citizen and not subject to the jurisdiction of the committee. The committee released it a short time later. Gaetz resigned from Congress in November, blah, blah, blah. I don't think we even need to read this. Okay, wait, let's go ahead a little bit. Among the report's most lurid findings were the allegations of sex and drug-fueled parties and travel, including a 2018 trip to the Bahamas, where witnesses say he took ecstasy and had sex with 4 women. I mean, I don't even see the problem with doing that, but it's like, can you not do it while you're representing the country? That in and of itself doesn't even sound that bad. If everyone's a consenting adult, From 2017 to 2020, Representative Gaetz made tens of thousands of dollars in payments to women that the committee determined were likely in connection with sexual activity and or drug use, noted the report, which lists payments totaling more than $90,000 to 12 different women. Get a grip, dude. The committee said it also received testimony that at a 2017 party, Gaetz twice had sex with victim A, who was 17 years old at the time and had just completed her junior year in high school. Ew. Victim A recalled receiving $400 in cash from Representative Gaetz that evening, which is such a junior in high school amount of money to accept for sex, which she understood to be payment for sex, the committee wrote. Victim A said that she did not inform Representative Gaetz that she was under 18 at the time, nor did he ask her age. I mean, when you're 17, you got, I mean, even if she looked very, very mature for 17, Matt Gaetz is considerably older. You should not be playing with fire like that. In his written response to the committee, Gaetz denied having sex with a minor. The Department of Justice previously investigated Gaetz for violating sex trafficking laws, but did not bring charges. The committee said it did not find sufficient evidence Gaetz violated the federal sex trafficking statute because although he transported women across state lines for the purpose of sex, those women were all 18 or older at the time. The report noted that while all the women who testified said the sexual encounters with Gaetz were consensual, one woman told the committee the use of drugs at the parties and events they attended may have impaired their ability to really know what was going on or fully consent. I hear you, but if you're at a thing and everyone's using drugs, like including him, like if he's on ecstasy too, like again, that's where I feel like it really gets murky and you really can't, one person's word is not going to go against the other. And that's something I stand by and have said on Guys We Fucked as well.
But by the way,
yes.
On what planet are you handing someone that amount of money for sex without first discussing whether or not they are in fact a sex worker? Do you know what I mean? That feels like I'm very on drugs and you are too hot to be sleeping with me. Here's $400.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, so like what is like, but I mean like, that is kind of like you're getting into then like sugar baby territory kind of, you know? Because it's like, you know, yeah, I think most women at one point in our lives, whether or not we are a sex worker, and I mean, what constitutes a sex worker? Are you a sex worker the first time you accept money for a sexual activity? I mean, I guess by today's standards, I think so, right? So, I think I certainly have been offered money various times to perform various sexual acts or to provide people with pornographic photos or stuff. I have not accepted it at any point, but had I, and it was something I definitely thought about, especially like foot stuff. I thought about that long and hard when I was in college and I needed money. I mean, Christina and I have a story that we've told on Guys We Fucked many times when we tried to respond to this thing on Craigslist that was like they needed like nude models for like a sexual massage course, like a husband and wife were teaching supposedly God knows what was going on, and we were responded to it as a duo and said that we would only show up as a duo if they would hire us both, and that we would not email nudes, but we would bring like hard copies of nudes to the interview if they called us in. So like that kind of a thing. And so that's kind of like what constitutes a sex worker. And if you're a junior in high school and some guy who's like gross but not that gross offers you $400 to fuck, and you don't have a problem with fucking, like,
yeah, but she said he didn't. It wasn't that he offered her $400 to fuck. It was that they hooked up and he gave her $400. Correct? That's the way I understood it, because she said there was never discussion,
right,
but she understood it as payment for sex. So I'm saying, like, is that just you're on drugs and it's your own self-loathing that creeps in there?
Right.
Where you're like,
that's interesting. Or you're on drugs and then after you come, you look at this girl's face and then you go, this girl looks very young. Let me give her $400 and hope she doesn't say anything.
You just have this never be a thing again.
Right, without actually saying it. Yeah, I think all of those things can be true. Yeah, it's worded in a way, but yes, I think what you just said makes perfect sense. It's worded a little bit vaguely, but it certainly seems like, yeah, that she wasn't kind of like, it wasn't really a discussion. They just like hooked up and then he like left $400 on the nightstand. God, that's like even worse. Like that, there's like, that could make you feel a certain kind of way.
Yeah, not only am I a much older man, like, I know girls who are younger than 17 who have told me stories of hooking up with grown men, you know, 15, 16-year-olds. Like, this is what I'm talking. I'm a teenager, and this is another teenage girl telling me a story of hooking up with an older guy.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, it was just a fun thing to do on vacation.
For sure.
To then turn that girl who's too young to be having sex with you in the first place into a sex worker is pretty nuts.
It's just a lot of complex, feelings to deal with. Oh wow, yeah, that. But yeah, I mean, I think any woman you talk to has at one point or another been offered money for sex or something sexual. I've been offered money for weird. One time someone offered me like $2,000 to shit in a Tupperware.
And send it to him, or just take a picture?
Send it to them. Yeah.
Oh, that's illegal to send in the mail.
Pickup only. All righty then.
Grab it from my Dropbox.
Oh my God. All right. The last thing I think we'll talk about today is Biden, the commutes. This is from so this is from WHYY.org, which is associated with PBS and NPR. And I chose it specifically because NPR and PBS, yes, they're left leaning, but they usually are like kind of like tame in their headlines. They're not like super clickbaity. And so I found it interesting that the headline for this article was Biden commutes death sentence for Philadelphia drug lord who killed 12 people, including children. Because that's like a very Fox News headline we're dealing with right here. So on Monday, the president announced he is commuting the sentences of 37 people on federal death row, including Kobani Savage, or Savage, if you're a Dept fan, who ordered the firebombing of a house in 2004. President Joe Biden on Monday announced that he is commuting the sentences of 37 of the 40 people on federal death row, including a Philadelphia drug lord who was convicted of killing a dozen people. Their punishments were converted to life in prison. Biden said the decision was guided by his conscience and comes just weeks before President-elect Donald Trump, an outspoken proponent of expanding capital punishment, takes office. Something else to look forward to. These commutations are consistent with the moratorium my administration has imposed on federal executions in cases other than terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder, Biden said. You know, I am very anti-death penalty, but being anti-death penalty means nothing if there is no prison reform. So those two things work hand in hand. The way the prisons are run now, there's absolutely, honestly, I think sometimes capital punishment is a better option for a lot of these people with the way life it's like if you have no, I don't know. I also think that maybe like if you don't want to be alive, I feel like you should be able to opt out, like especially since people are paying for you to be alive. Like if you don't want to be alive and you have no chance of parole, like I think you should be able to be like, I'd rather be killed. One of those inmates is Kobani Savage, who was convicted of killing 12 people, including 4 children. The youngest victims died when Savage ordered the firebombing of the house where they lived in an act of retribution against a witness. Also, a plotline on Your Honor. Family members of the children who died are devastated. That includes Tina Fox, who told Action News she is disappointed in the president. Many of Fox's relatives were murdered at Savage's direction at a home on North 6th Street in 2004. This crime is beyond violent, she said. They were children. They would have been adults now, but they don't have a say. You can't hear their voice. They were killed innocently. And while I 100% agree with that, how is killing this guy gonna, is that gonna, bring you peace? I'm not asking snarkily. I'm really would this guy being dead, would that bring you peace? I'm curious. And there's a related content that it says drug kingpin Kobani Savage sentenced to death for 2004 firebombing, which is right under. This is from 12 years ago though. One of the 4 children who was killed was a fucking infant. But again, it was firebombing. Savage was convicted of those murders that he ordered from prison. He was also found guilty in 6 other murders, including a man scheduled to testify against him and rival drug dealers. You're like, Biden's decision is final, and it says that simply means that the individual will remain incarcerated with a life sentence as opposed to an effort to have him executed down the road. That's something now that can never happen. In a statement, President Biden said he believes America must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level, except in cases of terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder. The 3 death row inmates that remain, he says, fit that category. So I guess, even though it seems like, okay, out of all the people to commute a sentence for, this seems like not the guy to do it, But he created an ethical boundary for himself. And then he was like, well, once you create that ethical boundary, you can't then make exceptions. And do I agree with him on that ethical boundary? I mean, I don't agree with the death penalty at all, period, hard stop. So I like, he created this ethical boundary. And even though this one guy seems like a fucking nightmare and he was already in prison and he was still creating chaos from prison, and that's really bad, that's why this person had their sentence commuted. And that's that. And now they're trying to make a big story about it. Like, oh, he let this child murderer live. It's, well, no, he created an ethical boundary and he's then sticking by the boundary. Like there has to be some reason, some list of things that qualify you to have these sentences commuted. And at least he created ethical guidelines for himself instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to do all my friends, Like, yeah, he did it for his son. But again, we went through that and I'm on his side for that one because I would have said, fuck all y'all. All right, guys, that's the show. I hope you guys are going to watch this on New Year's Day because I feel like we just did an action-packed episode. And during the holidays, I always worried that I'm doing all this for absolutely nothing. But I had a fun time, and I hope Mike had a fun time, and we spent some time together. And this is the start to 2025. I'm really excited for this year, and I'm excited to continue doing this show that has grown so much this year. And obviously last year we left the Gaetz Digital Network, but they have still been letting us use their space, which is really, really generous of them. And I appreciate it so much. And I think the show has only grown and headed in a even more positive direction. Certainly it has expanded, the Patreon, the YouTube, everything. Please subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. It's youtubes.com/withoutacountry. Follow us on Instagram at Without a Country Podcast. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, it's patreon.com/withoutacountry. You can follow Mike on social media at them Harrington, and you can follow me at Philanthropy Gal. Set some positive intentions for 2025. If you're into astrology, the astrology is pretty wild, not good or bad, just wild. And really what's that thing that you've really been wanting to do? What's that thing that you've been really wanting to do, that impact you've been really wanting to make on the world? Do that this year. No time like the present, no day like today. All right, do it. Do it this year, and I'll be doing it along with you. Thank you so much for spending a part of your week with me as always. Keep critically thinking, ask questions, and engage with the other side. We're gonna be having to a lot come January 20th. All right, bye.